Rain pounded Arlington National Cemetery, each drop striking the granite headstones like a somber drumbeat. Sergeant Benjamin Hayes stood beside a flag-draped casket, his scarlet and black tomb guard uniform soaked through, rain tracing paths down his polished shoes. The cold didn't seem to touch him, not today, not when he was there for Colonel John Hammond. Every step Benjamin took, every salute he rendered, every fold of the flag he guarded was a vow to those who had given everything. As a tomb guard at the tomb of the unknown soldier, Benjamin carried the weight of that vow with every breath. A groundskeeper, Tom Bradley, fumbled with the flag on Colonel Hammond's casket. His rough hands, calloused from years of digging graves, slipped, and the tattered fabric brushed the muddy ground. Benjamin stepped forward, his body shielding the flag before it fell further, his voice low, but cutting through the storm. "This flag doesn't touch the ground." Tom scoffed, his gravelly voice thick with annoyance. "Just an old piece of cloth, Sergeant. What's the big deal? Relax, will you? I've got a job to finish." Welcome to the Old Guard Watch, where stories of those who stand for the fallen come to life, honoring the sacrifices that define a nation. Where are you listening from today? Drop your city in the comments. Hit that subscribe button and join the journey to celebrate duty, courage, and sacrifice. Benjamin Hayes grew up in a small town in Pennsylvania, raised on his grandfather's tales of World War II. The old man's stories of the Pacific Theater, of soldiers, and the flags they carried through fire shaped Benjamin's path. Becoming a tomb guard was his way of continuing that legacy, of standing for men like Colonel John Hammond, whose final wish was to be buried at Arlington with the flag he carried through the hell of Iwo Jima. That flag, faded and frayed, was more than fabric to Benjamin. It was Hammond's story, his blood, his sacrifice, and Benjamin would not let it be disrespected. Tom glared at Benjamin, rain dripping from the brim of his cap, his eyes narrowed with defiance. "I've buried hundreds of these flags, Hayes. You think this one's special? You think it's worth holding up my crew in this downpour?" His words were a challenge, but Benjamin held his ground, his white-gloved hands folding the flag with the precision drilled into him over years of training at the tomb. "This flag flew over Iwo Jima," he said, his voice steady despite the storm. "It's worth more than your rush." A small crowd gathered, their umbrellas bobbing like black flowers in the rain. Among them was Mia Carter, a young reporter with the Arlington Gazette, her phone out recording the tense exchange. She was there chasing a story about loyalty, she would later explain. But in that moment, she was just another witness to the standoff unfolding. Tom's voice rose, his frustration spilling over. "I've got a job to do, Sergeant. You're holding up my crew, making a scene over a piece of rag. I could report you for interfering with cemetery operations." Benjamin met Tom's gaze, rain streaming down his face, his voice calm but unyielding. "My grandfather taught me a flag isn't just cloth. It's the story of the men who carried it, the battles they fought, the lives they saved. This flag carries Colonel Hammond's blood, sweat, and sacrifice." He placed the flag back on the casket, his movements deliberate, almost ceremonial, and the crowd fell silent as the rain continued its relentless drumbeat. Tom muttered something under his breath, his boots squelching in the mud as he stalked off. But Benjamin knew the conflict wasn't over. Not yet. Mia stepped forward, her raincoat slick, her voice cautious but laced with curiosity. "Sergeant Hayes, I'm Mia Carter with the Arlington Gazette. What's so special about that flag? Why risk a fight over it?" Benjamin hesitated, his training urging him to keep his distance, to stay focused on duty alone. "It's from Iwo Jima," he said, his tone clipped, offering nothing more. "That's all you need to know for now." Mia's eyes sparked with interest, a journalist's instinct flaring, and Benjamin could tell she wouldn't let this go. Neither of them realized it yet, but that flag in this moment would lead them across an ocean to a truth buried in the ashes of war. Colonel John Hammond had died at 98, alone in a VA hospital with no family to claim him, no next of kin to mourn his passing. His only wish was to be buried at Arlington with the flag he carried in Iwo Jima, a tattered relic of a battle that had defined the generation. Benjamin's mission was to ensure that wish was honored, that the flag was treated with the reverence it deserved. To Tom Bradley, it was just another task on a rain-soaked checklist, a piece of cloth to be handled and forgotten. To Benjamin, it was a debt to a sended soldier who had carried it through shell, who had made it mean something. The rain fell harder, pooling around Benjamin's boots as he stood guard by the casket. He thought of his grandfather, a World War II veteran, whose voice, rough with age, had filled Benjamin's childhood with stories of the Pacific. Flags raised under fire, promises kept against all odds, sacrifices that echoed through time. His grandfather had said a flag was a vow to remember, to honor, to stand firm no matter the cost. Benjamin was standing firm now for Colonel Hammond, for a flag that held secrets he didn't yet know, secrets that would soon change everything. Days later, Mia Carter sat in a cramped archive room poring over yellowed military records under the flicker of fluorescent lights. Her search for the story behind Hammond's flag had become an obsession, driven by the memory of her brother, Lucas, a Marine who died in Afghanistan. She uncovered reports of Hammond's heroism at Iwo Jima, how he had saved a squad of Marines by raising his flag to draw enemy fire, giving his men a chance to escape. But a faded footnote in a forgotten report stopped her cold. Hammond had used that same flag to shield a Japanese boy, Hiroshi Tanaka, wounded in a village caught in the crossfire of war. Mia tracked down a military historian, Dr. Robert Klein, in a cluttered office filled with dusty books and maps of old battlefields. Klein's voice was measured, heavy with awe, as he confirmed the story. Hiroshi, now an old man, lives in a small village near Okinawa, he said. That flag isn't just a relic of war. It's a symbol of humanity, of a moment when compassion triumphed over chaos. Mia called Benjamin that night, her voice crackling with excitement through the phone. Sergeant Hayes, I found something incredible. That flag saved a boy's life in Japan. His name is Hiroshi Tanaka, and he's still alive. Benjamin stood in his barracks, the flag's glass case on his desk, its faded stars catching the dim light. His heart raced, but his voice remained steady, a tomb guard's discipline holding firm. What are you suggesting, Miss Carter? Mia paused, then spoke with conviction. I'm going to Japan to find him. You should come. That flag deserves to be with someone who understands what it means. Benjamin hesitated, his training anchoring him to Arlington, to the steady rhythm of 21 steps, a turn, a pause. But the thought of that flag, of Hiroshi, tugged at him like a tide. If no one claims it, he said, his voice quiet, who will honor Hammond's story? The next morning, Benjamin stood before his commander, Colonel Daniels, in a stark office at Fort Mayer. Daniels, a stern man with a face lined by years of service, listened as Benjamin explained the flag's history, Hiroshi's survival, and the mission to deliver it. It's unconventional, Daniel said, his eyes narrowing as he leaned back in his chair. But if this flag meant that much to Hammond, it's a mission of honor. You have my approval, Sergeant. Benjamin packed the flag in its glass case, its tattered edges a testament to its journey, and boarded a plane with Mia to Japan. The case rested on his lap, its weight heavier than fabric, a silent reminder of the man who carried it through hell. On the long flight, Benjamin opened up, the hum of the engines loosening his guard. My grandfather fought in the Pacific, he told Mia, his voice low, his eyes on the clouds outside the window. He said a flag carries the soul of a soldier, the weight of their choices, their sacrifices. This one carries Hammond's. Mia nodded, her fingers tracing the edge of her notebook, her eyes distant. My brother Lucas was a Marine, he said. He died in Afghanistan. Writing these stories, it's how I keep him alive. Benjamin looked at her, understanding the unspoken bond between them. They were both carrying ghosts, down by duty to the past, driven to honor the fallen in their own ways. They arrived in a quiet village near Okinawa, where rice fields stretched under a gray sky, the air thick with the scent of wet earth and wild flowers. Hiroshi Tanaka's house was small, wooden, surrounded by a garden of swaying cherry blossoms and wild ferns.